Hello and welcome to SATV's special edition on India-Pakistan tensions. We have a very distinguished guest today, Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, former professor of Dhaka University International Relationship Department, and we have our regular commentator Shamsul Alam Pantho, who was keenly following the horrific events between India and Pakistan in last 3 weeks. Let me start with a very dangerous comment by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He has said India only paused its military action against Pakistan in his first speech to the nation since a ceasefire following fierce military confrontation last week that threatened a fifth all-out war between the nuclear armed neighbors. We will definitely discussing on this because just couple of moments ago I was watching a program in Al Jazeera. They are discussing about Indian Prime Minister Modi's this comment that India has only paused its military action against Pakistan. Sir, welcome to SATV studio on its special edition on Pakistan-India conflict. What is your opinion after this comment by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi?
Thank you very much. No, that's predictable because I think there has been quite a backlash on Modi's action this time. Even a lot of Indian commentators are critical of the way this was handled. For him to come up with something of this kind is quite predictable, and there are good reasons for that. One very big good reason is, as you know, Donald Trump almost preempted Modi's statement. You know, there's a news that he was supposed to speak at 8 p.m. but Donald Trump preempted that and said at 7:30 p.m. that it was U.S. and it was Trump who did the negotiation, and that's the reason why the ceasefire is there. This is I guess the first time where the United States have come up in such a big way in South Asia. We don't see that, and almost suggesting, Donald Trump also suggested that we are going to meet in a neutral place and we are going to talk about Kashmir and all those things. This has never happened before, and this is the first time United States taking a lead in bringing the two countries together. How much it will materialize, we don't know, but keep in mind back in 1965, it was Moscow, where there was a deal between Ayub Khan and Indian Prime Minister way back. But we don't see a great power, particularly United States, taking this into that direction. And the reason is quite simple, because India has always been saying that this is a bilateral issue and we are going to resolve bilaterally, but this time it looks that it hasn't worked. And that's the reason I think there's a lot of criticism against Modi. Now, two particular things I think has happened, and I'll stop by saying that so I can hear also our co-panelist. One, I think from India's side, one thing has become very clear is that you cannot do away with Kashmir issue. I think that it has become very clear, because the idea was if you revoke the special status of Kashmir and if you invest in development, including tourism, Kashmiris will be very happy and you can get rid of terrorism. I must quickly add here that in the last 10 years there have been terror incidents, although of a low key. One statistic says that in last 10 years more than 2,000 people were killed because of terrorism. But this one was a big one, no doubt about it, and it clearly shows that this very policy that through development and through tourism you can stop Kashmiri terrorism. That I think that has really got punctured this time. So it's very clear. On the other hand, from the Pakistan side, I think also one has to see, there has been this suggestion that they have been soft on Kashmiri terrorism, giving moral support. I don't know how far they supported this particular action. There's, we don't have evidence, but moral support was always there for Kashmiri. But it looks like they also see a limits of being soft on terrorism, because if that is the case, India would hit hard. That also has become clear. So, from both sides, it looks there have been some lessons. Now we have to see whether the United States would play the role of a mediator or not. But there is no doubt Kashmiri is back on an international agenda.
Sir, thank you very much. Very well described. I would like to read out 2-3 lines before going to you for a question. The ultra-nationalist Hindu leader said in New Delhi that his government will not make a distinction between governments that support terrorism and terrorist groups. He said India would retaliate on its own terms if there is any future terror attack in the country. On the other hand, the Dawn of Pakistan, very leading newspaper, says Foreign Minister of Pakistan Ishaq Dar has said that the ceasefire between India and Pakistan could be threatened if the water issue not resolved. In the upcoming talks between the neighbors, failure to resolve the water issue will amount to an act of war, he said with an interview with the CNN as well. So, these two ultra-nationalist comments is redirecting the war situation or ceasefire, post-ceasefire position in a different direction. What do you think?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Kanchan, and special thanks to Professor Imtiaz for being here today. First of all, it's a lot of retaliatory comments on both ends. I would like to give you a small update from last night. Reports came in that in Jammu and Kashmir, in the Samba region, there was a suspected drone, and the Indian administration asked the citizens in that area not to panic, and a blackout was observed. From this we can say, what is the meaning of this ceasefire if this is still continuing and still persistent? In the evening speech by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he made many retaliatory remarks, and as per your question, you said that the water blockage to the neighboring country would directly amp the military conflict. In his words, I will repeat, blood and water can't flow together. He is making a dangerous remark, and this may also lead to a further conflict.
Very powerful comments.
Very powerful comment, and this is a comment that would also ignite the citizens and the households that there are in both the countries. TRT World is a news agency that reported that this has been the biggest dogfight since World War II. Not only that, the PAF and the IAF have been at each other's necks. Most of the attack has been concluded in the air more than in the land or at the sea. And I think Donald Trump has tried his level best in order to calm the situation in this region for the economic benefits that all the neighbors can benefit from. Actually, you have to look at this war in a deeper meaning. According to Google, the search engine of the generation, it said that from India, the highest searched verb or the highest searched word was the meaning of the word ceasefire.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
This became a matter of satire for almost anyone who was online last night. So I would like to, war can be held in multiple fronts, and that such a comment from the Prime Minister of India, who holds the ultimate seat in that country, he should restructure what he has to say to the nation. He can choose to water down this war, he can also choose to aggravate this war, and in my opinion, he's chosen the latter to do so.
Sir, I'll come back to you before I go to Professor Imtiaz. BBC commentators are saying that India started its journey to redrawing their map. One very leading BBC commentator said. Another commentator says that world is going to be witnessed another dirty, brutal and terrible war between two neighboring countries, which will cross the records of the history. I personally feel very horrible after hearing all those comments from the world leader or world level commentators. What do you think, sir?
I have a slightly different take on that, because in today's world, continuing a war is very costly. Even if you look at some of the figures, one figure that has come out, the cost of war per day is around $15 billion. Now, just imagine with $15 billion, how many hospitals and schools and roads you can build. You know, you can change a city with the $15 billion. So, continuing war for both the countries are very different. Now, in India, there are policy makers who have been well bred, you know, from the time of Cold War, tend to follow the Cold War pattern. You see, in the Cold War, what has happened, the conflict between US and Soviet Union, one of the strategy was to drain out Soviet Union by increasing the arms race. And US raised the arms race to such a level that Soviet Union collapsed at one point of time, because they hardly had any no computers, no you know, nothing of that kind. And Gorbachev understood that and tried to, you know, reconstruct whole Soviet Union and deconstructed Soviet Union, got into Russia now, and the story is totally different. So there are critics who point out that India probably is also trying to drain out Pakistan, because comparatively Pakistan's economy is weaker than India's, you know, with all the figures that you have. Yes, India economy is larger, they have more poverty, you know, people living under poverty in terms of numbers, but still the economy, if you look at the surplus and all, you will see there's quite a difference. So one idea that they preach is to drain out the other. And so how do you do that? And one way of doing that would be to keep a low conflict always there, because you need to then have a higher budget for your military, and in that you can't contribute to human development sector, whatever it is, and create you know, dissent within Pakistan, and which is also the case. You know, a lot of people in Pakistan are frustrated. So I don't know whether that Cold War strategy will work this time or not. But what has happened in this particular case, there are Indian critics who say this was a false flag kind of an operation. This operation had more to do with Modi's declining you know, support at home, because as you know, he has a what you call a coalition, a very weak coalition government, and 2 elections are coming up, one in Bihar and in one West Bengal, and he is desperate to win those elections. So this is one thing they think that will galvanize the whole India to patriotism and vote for Modi. Really, this time may not work. You know, there's a famous saying by what you call, this was Marx's statement, because Hegel said that history repeats twice, and Marx said yes, Hegel is right, it repeats twice, but first time as tragedy, second time as farce. So we don't know whether this particular incident, whether it was a tragedy or a farce, but the fact of the matter is there is an issue of domestic politics as well, because I think a lot of in the opposition, they are already critical of what Modi has done, bringing United States in, making it international. Kashmir is now an international issue. This was not something that Indians wanted, you know, at least for last 20-30 years. We never saw India in that platform. So we have to wait and see. But I guess there are a lot of interesting things which one has to look into to see what really has happened tomorrow.
Very well explained, sir. I really liked it. I want to go to our regular commentator, Shamsul Alam Pantho. Before I go to you, I have just received a breaking news. 3 terrorists have been killed in an encounter with security forces in Jammu and Kashmir, Sopian. Another terrorist could be present, or he is hidden in the area. The encounter initially began in Kulgam and then shifted to forest area at Sopian. The security personnel of the army and paramilitary forces have been fighting the terrorists for about 2 hours now. Last 2 hours this is happening. NDTV says, I will come to you for a tricky question. Do you find any potential or possibility that international players, I mean the other superpowers, allies countries, will be engaged somehow in trade war or in physical war? Do you find any potential on that?
Thank you once again. As per your report, this is a basic case of insurgency inside India. Now, whether there has been an escalation on this matter, it is still a running event, right? As of this moment. They are fighting homegrown terrorism, which is far more dangerous than international spread terrorism, as we know, the multiple groups I shall not mention here. But India should be very wary about its own borders. Where are the focus groups? Where are these concentration points inside of India itself? How to eradicate this issue, how to have a more communal way of thinking about what terrorism actually means. 30-40 years ago, ceasefire meant that the both sides would hoist a white flag and call a truce and assess their damages in order to have a world standing. In today's time, a ceasefire only means, okay, we shall deter using nuclear weapons, we shall continue to have hostilities, and we shall still have knives at each other's throats. That's the definition of ceasefire in 2025, or at least that's what the definition has become given the practicality of the events. At this moment, it's still very tough to say where the Indian government stands at regarding fighting terrorism, but terrorism itself is such a event or such a matter that all the countries of this planet is actively fighting this inside their own borders. India cannot use this topic of terrorism every time when they need to have a hostility with their neighbor. In this example, that would be Pakistan. More or less, Pakistan does have, it is a very resource rich country. However, the economy, that's also a different factor, different topic. But India surpasses them in economy, and to sustain a long-term war would be detrimental to both of the sides. We can compare using the Ukraine-Russia war that has run for 3.5 years now. None of the sides are benefiting, nor Ukraine nor Russia. We've seen Donald Trump openly, if you would like to call it, bullying President Zelensky and in the Oval Office, only to get him to that one message that you must stop your war, concede defeat, and think about your people once more. You have swayed away from the main topic of doing for the people. You are the president of the people. Similarly, if you look at India, is Narendra Modi the prime minister of the people in India? I have a very strong doubt. He has led this nation of 1 billion people into a skirmish with Pakistan. He had to call, or he had to immediately respond to the Oval Office in order to bring through this immediate and full ceasefire. They call it, the words that were used by Donald Trump, immediate and full ceasefire. Even so that they both have violated this ceasefire, and as we can see on the social media, it's still a running issue. So I would like to tell our viewers and everyone here present today that there shall be more shows here on this very desk based on the facts that and based on the situation that is out there on the field.
We'll be doing, sir. Very well described, and you have given us some clue. Let us go for a short break. We'll be coming soon, and we'll be asking a very diplomatic question to Professor Imtiaz Ahmed.
How people could be so brutal? Uncle, mere felle. You are my only father. Still, I am sacrificing you. Go and kill those bastards. চোখে পানি চলে আসলো। আমি এইরকম একটা কথা শুনে আসছি স্যার আজকে। I am sacrificed by my family. Let us go kill those bastards.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to SATV's special edition India-Pakistan Tension. We have a very distinguished guest today in the studio, Professor Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed, who was an international relations professor at Dhaka University, who reads international relations, who writes internationals. He will be speaking international affairs today. Sir, our commentator Shamsul Alam Panto has given us some hints that to whom Modi represents, why Modi is engaging India with a war with the neighboring country. Is this his political vision or is this his patriotism?
Way back, Bismarck had an interesting statement. He said foreign policy is an extension of domestic policy. So, domestic politics plays a role in foreign policy. Now, if you look at the electoral base of Narendra Modi or BJP, one has to read that very carefully, because when he got elected the first time, he had 34% of the popular vote, but got 2/3 majority overall with the coalition and all. Second time when he got elected, he increased a little bit, 36%, 2% more. Again, there was a terrorist attack at that time, Balakot, and that allowed him to win probably a little bit more. And again, he got with the coalition all 2/3. But this time, interestingly, even with 36%, there was a less 0.8% vote. He did not get the 2/3, the majority that he got. He had to make coalition with two governments, and two political parties, and it's a very kind of a shaky coalition. Now, I think one has to focus on that because the chances are, it's only 0.8%. If that can happen, the chance, he probably will take some activities for to increase the vote bank. Now, whether that will work or not is very difficult to say. But this time, it looks like it didn't work. At least from now, some of the critics are already pointing out, because he really is desperately looking to win both in Bihar and West Bengal, which could be very difficult, and that could lead to an early national election, because if the coalition collapses, if something happens. Now, we definitely have to wait and see how that would play. My point is, using domestic politics is not something new. Other countries also do. You can have the same kind of narrative for Pakistan, because Pakistan also, as you know, they have a serious problem inside, and the military also needs its own budget to play with. So a conflict with India, conflict with Kashmir also raises their status. There were a lot of negative views on Pakistan military, but now there's quite a big positive, because they seem to have the best of what has happened, particularly when getting the Rafale down. And this has to do more with the Chinese technology, of course. The Chinese are in the best place now, because they could show really with the technology that what they can do to global technologies. Now, look at Rafale is not a little small technology. It's one of the big technologies that the West had, one of the finest technologies. And that got busted by the Chinese technology. So, there was a technology warfare also. And that also would tell you that why, I guess, Donald Trump too became very eager to stop this ceasefire, because it could go in a very different direction. There were some secret intelligence report that it was going in a different direction. Pakistan probably was thinking more desperate in many ways. India too was more desperate. And so it could have gone in a very different direction. After all, both are nuclear powers. One has to remain. But there's no doubt that technology played a role, and Chinese technology really played a role. So I go back to my point of war being very costly. War in contemporary times is very, very costly. If you look at some of the figures, a missile, even the BrahMos missile, I was looking into the internet, one BrahMos missile costs around $2.5 to $5.6 million. Just imagine, and you could do so many things with that. Even a small drone, it costs $500, and if it is targeted heighted drone that the Russians use against Ukraine, it's around $350,000. Look at, so one has to look into those costs. There was no way they could go for an all-out war. That would be suicidal to both.
Sir, Shamsul Panto, before I go to a question to you, I just want to let you remember one thing. During the Balakot strikes in 2016, the opposition party of India, Rahul Gandhi, he said in the parliament, if anything regarding the Indian international issues, we will definitely criticize the Modi administration. But if anything, even small issues regarding the external affairs, we will be supporting Modi government. But this time, in 3 weeks, we have seen nothing coming out from opposition, I mean Congress. So, don't you think Modi is fighting alone?
Thank you for your question. At this moment, you've mentioned Rahul Gandhi. He was openly trolled inside Parliament, from what I remember, as he criticized the Prime Minister of India. And at this moment, I've seen not only just the opposition, some of the Muslim leaders that there are in that house, they are also trying to assess the situation, that how come the PM of India is playing such a strategy with India or with Pakistan. And at this stage, if you look at the whole world, I'll bring in Donald Trump here. His main weapon is not a nuclear bomb or a military hangar. His main weapon is trade. I've said before in a talk show that Donald Trump has imposed a lot of tariffs for all major global players. This is to balance out, in my opinion, this would be to balance out the scales of how and which countries are having a proper arsenal. And in regards to China, Professor Imtiaz has said regarding how the Chinese fighter jets were against Rafale fighter jets of France. China went from being a household in manufacturing, and they turned it into innovation. And then they refined themselves, and now they are a global player. So this definitely took a lot of time. And in regards to your question, in the upcoming election in India, it would be very shaky, given that 26 lives were initially lost in the Pahalgam terror incident, which led to this in the first place. That is the initial failure of the Indian government at large. There is no other way of saying that this is a terror group that came from Pakistan. In the directions of the Pakistani government, they carried such a thing. It would be more of a statement that innocent tourists were there. Such a heinous act was contributed by 3 or 4 insurgents, and that the Indian government in that region has failed to protect its most valued asset in that region, tourists and the tourism infrastructure. And this would have a direct effect on what any kind of upcoming election result.
And definitely you have been noticed that Indian media is supporting and provoking Modi to go for a war, but Indian people on the street are criticizing Modi's administration. And union government, I mean federal government, is continuing their job, but the state governments, they are not even expressing their opinions, how much pressure they are taking. Before I go to Professor Dr. Imtiaz, I already said that who reads international relations, who writes international relations, who speaks international relations. Before I go to you, I want to give you a clue, sir. Dialogues, diplomacies, diversification, deals and development is the core foundation of foreign policies. Do you find from both sides, from Shahbaz Sharif government and from Modi's government, that this 5D could be culminated to resolve these problems, including the water issues?
Well, at the end of the day, you need to talk. There's no way out of dialogues. There's no way out of communication. The lesser the communication you have, the greater is the fear that you will end up in conflicts, and it will create negative vibes in both the countries. So I don't think, even the worst enemy, you need to communicate. That's the only way humans deal. So I think this would be an interesting experience to see whether United States succeeds in bringing these two countries, whether Donald Trump does that. Don't forget, United States has a very special relationship with Pakistan. The Pakistan military, particularly Pakistan military brass, is totally connected with the United States. They have special treaty and arrangements with the United States, and now Modi also has very good relationship with Donald Trump. So, this is one scenario you don't see. You either see one way or other. During the Democratic Party, Joe Biden was having very negative kind of relationship with India, and was almost to the point of breaking down. It was Donald Trump who revived, and immediately we saw Modi going to Washington and talking to Trump. But it doesn't help, because the United States would have its own agenda. A lot of policymakers in India think that United States would favor India against Pakistan, and I've always been saying no, it doesn't work like that, because Pakistan's elite, Pakistan's military is very much connected with the United States historically. They were part of the CENTO and SEATO, don't forget. They were the part who helped in Osama bin Laden case, getting into Afghanistan. They have an extraordinary relationship. People forget. Yes, there were a lot of anti-Pakistan element anti-US element in Pakistan, in the public. Of course, that's there. But the elite is very much connected with the United States. Now, if India thinks that just because of business, United States would shift towards India would shift towards India and would give up Pakistan because Pakistan is closer to China, that kind of equation doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Sir,
so my point here is, United States is in the best position to bring both the countries, particularly on the issue of water, which I think is a serious one. They need to resolve as quickly as possible. But I believe if anyone who can really play a role of a mediator would be Donald Trump.
Sir, do you think the stories like one father has died, he has kept some properties, now elder brother is enjoying the fight between the two younger brothers, because elder brother has interest. If one brother closed, then he will be the more beneficiary. So this is a very interesting thing, and Donald Trump will soon visit Delhi. Donald Trump proudly says Narendra Modi is my good friend. Narendra Modi proudly says Donald Trump is my good friend. But as far we know that United States Department of Defense has a very strong connections with Pakistan military, especially with the General Asif Munir. Sometimes Indian media criticized him as the pet dog of Washington. This is very ugly words though. But Indian media writes, especially the Hindu. Before I go to Shamsul Alam Panto, I'll have a very small question for you. Do you think China will take advantage from this war?
No, this is an interesting one. You see, the way China operates is very different from the Western countries. And one of the reasons is China is a very old civilization. They have lived with Pakistan and India for centuries. It's not new that they're living with these two countries. What they would look into is the economic relationship they have. Don't forget, as we talk, India's largest trading regime is China. People forget that.
Yes, sir.
That's the big one. Of course, they have the same time, they have a relationship with Pakistan. But I don't think conflict helps them, because they are more into economic and infrastructure development of the kind, and those who are, but they are not into selling of weapons. That's not their main business, let's put it that. Yes, they also have a little bit of military industrial complex, but that does not control China. It's globalization, it's trade, right? So I believe China here will try to take advantage of the business, but not necessarily one with the other.
Very interesting. I want to pick a question for our commentator Shamsul Alam Panto. Gentlemen, my question is, in Western, there is a proverb called, if you want to secure yourself, keep allies with the West. But if you want to expand the business, go to China. What do you think?
Thank you for your question. And it's a lovely question. Actually, I can give you a lot of content on this matter. China is, the communist China is also known as the sleeping dragon of Asia. Now, how has this term come about? Now, if you look at China and in terms of relationship with India, you've seen multiple disagreements and skirmishes between the People's Liberation Army of China and the Indian Army. At the border, China's open claim to the state called Arunachal Pradesh. and how China always tries to avoid a conflict with India, but also understand its priority of its borders. So China is a global manufacturing hub. I've mentioned in this story that they went from manufacturing and then to become innovation. And now they are fine-tuning what they have innovated on their own home soil. Xi Jinping of China is very well known for his communist practices. He is following the book of Mao, and right now China, I don't know if you have already, I've seen in the media report, the 145% tariff has already dropped down to 30% tariff. Already China has made sure that American side drops this tariff down to 30%, much 6% less than Bangladesh. So that is definitely a diplomatic success for China.
And this is a trade advancement as well.
Of course.
I want to come to Professor Mohammad Imtiaz. The question would be a little bit, in a different. There is only one man in the world who is a man. His name is Xi. I'm talking about Xi Jinping of China. And in West, there is some speculation that when Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin are not in media, they are masterminding something. When they are in media, they are giving signal they will invade. When they invade, Western leaders watch the television. After invasion, they give the reaction. So I want to get comments on this, sir.
No, no. I think Xi Jinping and Putin, they have a very good relationship, and it's a historical relationship. Don't forget, China and Russia have worked together for years. They have solved their border problems. That's a big one. There are very few instances where you give up land, and that has happened in the China-Russian border. So I think they have a fantastic relationship, and that was proven during the Russian-Ukrainian war and all through the sanction. And the sanction did not work mainly because Russia and China were together. And of course, India was also together with Russia and China in this whole sanction politics.
Right, sir.
These three countries made a difference, and they have a big economy. Let's put it that, the three, they're part of the BRICS. That's one part of it. They work together on BRICS. They are on the issue of de-dollarization. All are playing their role. So given the multipolar world that we are witnessing emerging, you will see more of this actually. If the point is whether United States would be comfortable with this multipolar world or not. Now, lately we have seen the Secretary of State Rubio referring to the multipolar world, and this was probably the first time we see a very high official of the United States saying that we are moving to a multipolar world, because somehow in the United States the mindset is still the unipolar world. We are the greatest, the West, because the West has have been in control for last, let's say 200 years or 250 years, but that is now coming to a close, because it's not possible for whether it's Russia or China or India or even for Bangladesh and the African countries to go back to colonialism. You can't reverse your trajectory backwards. Yes, there can be some instances of underdevelopment and conflict, but overall people are looking for opportunities and aspiration. And if you look at the technology which has created this bonding among different countries, so multipolarity is one thing that you can't do away with, and this Russia and China understood. Xi understood way back that we are moving to a multipolar world, and that is what they want to do, because multipolar world allows you to have a win-win situation. Now the problem is whether United States can get into this multipolar world as quickly as possible or not, or whether United States and the West would still insist on being unipolar, which is a difficult one, because multipolarity at a global level has never taken place. This is the first time in the history of civilization, human civilization, we are moving to a multipolar world. There was multipolar world in Europe, in Africa, in South Asia, but not on a global scale. It was either unipolar or bipolar. United States for a while thought that they are moving to a bipolar world, that China and the United States, this would be, Chinese are not interested in bipolar because they think they can benefit more with multipolar. So given that context, I think what we have to see whether Donald Trump would succeed in what he's trying to do in the context of its own economy, because the US economy needs to be refixed. Don't forget, it has a $36 trillion deficit.
Debt.
$36 trillion is unthinkable, and there is a website which gives you that every minute this deficit is increasing. And so in next 10 years time, according to this increase, next 10 year times, the interest that they pay on the deficit would be higher than their defense budget. Now that would be serious problem with the United States economy.
According to your analysis, I have got one information that currently war is witnessing three wars. One is Russia-Ukraine war, one is India-Pakistan war, another tensions in China-Taiwan. Okay. Interestingly, we have noticed that America is not directly engaged with any war, but they are the sideline player. My question would be, is there any chance that other superpower like Russia, India, China is going to dominate the neighboring countries? This question I would like to do Mr. Shamsul Alam Panthu.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your question. I would also include with the examples you've given North Korea and South Korea. Two brothers divided by a border. Now, back in Donald Trump's first presidency, I was faithfully in Singapore, and we've seen how two sworn enemies can still shake hands and have a diplomatic dialogue. The leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, had met Donald Trump in a neutral location, one of the strongest nations in Asia, Singapore. And what they initially offered was a de-escalation or the removal of the sanctions against North Korea, and for North Korea to deter from using nuclear weapons. It was very successful. It was also very pleasant to see on the screen of the international media that the the leader of United States of America is openly meeting or talking bilateral talk with Kim Jong-un, someone who is referred as a dictator in Asia. This such an example should have set a world, what you would call it, a world label for other nations to follow suit, such as the India and Pakistan. At this moment, the world is facing through multiple issues. We've seen in 2020 the coronavirus shake everyone down. Almost every nation had suffered from that event. And now 5 years later, we are witnessing multiple wars at a stage where it's about to start but still not starting. It is still at that kind of border. So my comment would be, all these nations that are having border issues or historical issues that are pertaining to this day, they should openly indulge in dialogue rather than taking their differences to account and unleashing a war which would lead to further bloodshed.
Sir, I have gotten information from our control room. Producer is asking me that audience are watching our shows in YouTube, Facebook and other networks. They said I should do a question to both of my distinguished guests in a very short time because we are running out of time. First question to Shamsul Alam Pantho. Yes. Who wins from this conflict? Very straight answer our viewers are asking for.
From conflict, there is no such winner. There is only damages, the bleeding out effect. Who wins from this conflict? No one actually. No one wins from a warlike situation. There's only damages, deaths, bloodshed, economical damages. So it's once again to your question, I would say avoid it at all means. War is no mean. Even though it has been repetitively over the years, it should be avoided.
Excellent. Same question for Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, but I need a little bit elaboration. Viewers are asking who is the winner of this war, because Pakistan Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif given a nationwide speech. He said we own, but Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took 3 days to give his national speech.
Yeah, well, I guess the point is we have to see whether it will have an impact inside, both in India and Pakistan in the near future. If Modi doesn't do good in elections in Bihar and West Bengal, that would mean people did not like what he has done. If we see that in Pakistan in few weeks time or in a few months time, they are back into the politics they did not resolve, particularly with Imran Khan and the governance still in a difficult position, then we would know that that has not worked. Because as Mr. Alam was saying, war doesn't, there's no winners. You have losers actually on both sides. It's people who loses, because the real people, they don't. You may take credit. Both Indian media will take credit in one way. Pakistan media will say, maybe in Bangladesh they'll be in different ways. But the point is, with billions of dollars, already $18 billion per day. Look at the loss with $18 billion per day. Look at how much schools and hospitals and what you could have changed a city with $18 billion, and it's only one day cost. So I don't think war has any winners, and we have seen over the years it doesn't have. You have losers, and it's time that both the countries can sit together, resolve their Kashmir problem. Kashmir has to be brought in, because I don't think through development and tourism you can get rid of what Kashmir is all about, and this has become very clear. So we just have to wait and see how far both these countries would now work together.
Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, an amazing contribution at today's show. You always do amazing performance in the live talk shows. And our commentator Shamsul Alam Panto, thank you very much for your amazing updates. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, I will have 3 questions for you. Number 1, who owned the First World War? Do you have any clear answer? No. Who owned the Second World War? Your answer, you have answer? No. Now my question is, final question is, who owned in this India-Pakistan conflict? Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.